Hey there guys, welcome back to the channel. As you can probably hear, my voice is gone, I'm sick as a dog, but today we're doing deck building staples on Counterspells. So it all began here with this one pesky card here from Alpha. Now I know that's debating printing, but just for the show. So, Counterspell, 2 mana, counter target spell, no more, done, gone. All began from there. So today we're going to look at maybe Counterspells broken up into categories and themes and things you could use in deck building. Most of this is to Commander because they're a bit janky. So let's go through them. First up are the established ones. These are ones we see in all the formats. They're very common because they're efficient and they get the job done, and to an extent they kind of budget. So Mana Leak, it's everywhere. It's 2 mana, counter target spell unless I pay 3. It's a very common theme. Essence Scatter and Negate are the counter target creature and counter target non-creature. Both at the 2 mana, get the job done. We also see Spell Pierce, which is the 1 mana counter target non-creature unless I pay 2. It's a really good way to get them when you've only got 1 mana. Or Dispel, which is a 1 mana counter target instant. Great way to protect from instants or other counter spells or removal. Then you got your more modern-esque cards here like Disallow, which at 3 mana can counter a spell, abilities or triggered abilities. It gives you good versatility. Or Swansong at 1 mana, which can counter enchantment, instant or sorcery, but it gives them a 2/2 bird token. That's a pretty good trade-off though. Or Good Old Remand at 2 mana, counter target spell, but instead it goes back to their hand, so it kind of resets them a bit, and you get to draw a card, so it buys you time. But if you're in a combo deck trying to win then and there, it's good because it buys you time and it gives you more fuel. Muddle the Mixture at 2 mana, it can counter instant sorceries, but mainly for its transmute. If you pay the 3 mana, you can $2 library for a card of 2 mana. Good to get combo pieces out or things that you need. Great in a lot of commander decks. Or in the older formats, you got the big boy, Mana Drain. At 2 mana, counter target spell. At the beginning of your next main phase, you get generic mana equal to its CMC. Little bit busted. Then you got the very degenerate cards, Mental Misstep and Spell Snare. Now these get banned or restricted in the old formats of course, but they counter spells at CMC 1 and 2. Very degenerate stuff, but good in Commander. Now, into the category of free. What's better than free in counter spells, right? So Force the Will. It's a very expensive counter spell, a 5 mana counter target spell, but you can pay 1 life, exile blue card from your hand, rather than paying its cost. A little bit broken. Force of Negation, the new printing from On Horizons. At 3 mana, you counter target non-creature spell, and if it's countered, exile instead. That's good, removes it from the graveyard. But if it's not your turn, you may exile blue card from your hand rather than paying its cost. A really good gotcha. You might not have any mana open, and they won't see it coming. Pact Negation, at 0 mana, just counter target spell, but at the beginning of your next upkeep, you gotta pay 5 mana or you lose the game. But most decks that run this kind of card are gonna win then and there, that's just for protection. Great in Modern, that's where it sees a lot of play. And Disruptive Control, which tries its hand at Modern every now and then. You can just counter target spells, mana cost X, or you can exile blue card with CMC X from your hand rather than paying its cost, but you need to line the CMC. Kind of a hard card to pull off. And of course, you've got Foil and Daze, really good cards in Commander. Foil lets you discard an island card and another card from your hand rather than paying its cost, just to counter something. Often played in most bug decks in Commander because filling up your graveyard's a good thing. In Daze, you can bounce an island back to your hand rather than paying its cost. Counter target spell unless its owner pays 1. The whole paying 1 is called the spike mechanic, which we'll go into later on. So I love to have options in counter spells. Cryptic Command start it all, where at 4 mana you can choose 2 options, counter spell, bounce something, tap all their creatures, or draw a card. It's versatility at its best. Then you have Mystic Confluence at 5 mana, which you have to pick 3 though. So you've got Mana Leak, so if you want to make them have to pay 9 mana you can, or you can bounce creatures back or draw cards. Archmage's Charm at 3 mana, pretty much for the mono blue decks, but you choose 1, counter spell, draw 2 cards, or gain control of permanent CMC 1. Good way to get back their combo pieces, or if you need more fuel at instant speed, it's good. And Insidious Will, 4 mana, you choose 1 as well, counter spell, choose new targets, so if you see a spell you want to steal, go ahead, or copy instant sorcery and you may choose new targets. I love having versatility in these kind of cards. Now, this is about counter spells. There are a couple creatures which do have counter spells built in, but I'm not covering actual permanent counter spells because they're a bit of a different thing altogether. Mystic Snake and Frilled Mystic at both 4 mana in green and blue can flash in and counter a spell. What's wrong with that? Silumgar Sorcerer at 3 mana can flash in, and if you exploit a creature by sacrificing it, you can counter target creature. Really good against other people's commanders mainly, and it can exploit itself. Then you've got the Spell Stutter Sprite, which at 2 mana can flash in and counter something with CMC less than the number of fairies you control. So if you're a fairy deck, fine, but on its own, you can counter something with CMC 1 or 0. But on a 2 mana creature, not bad. So on to draw. My favourite draw counterspell in Magic is Overwhelming Intellect at 6 mana. Probably the most expensive one today, but it's mainly because of the flavor text. So counter target creature spell, draw cards equal to the CMC, and the flavor text. My brain hurts. Oh, it's so good. So great against commanders or any big beta deck, gets you a lot of card value. Arcane Denial, seeing a lot of play now in Commander lately. You counter target spell, it's only 2 mana, so it's really efficient. And its controller may draw 2 cards at the beginning next upkeep, and you draw a card at the beginning next upkeep. That's kind of the trade-off for the really efficient nature of it. Then you've got Dream Fracture, which is a toned down version at 3 mana, counter target spell, they can draw a card and you draw a card. Still not bad. Spell Contortion's an interesting one. At 3 mana, you counter target spell unless they pay 2, but you may draw a card for each time you kicked it. So if you have a ton of mana floating around, you can really go for it if you want to, but they can always pay that 2 mana and get out. That's kind of the danger with it. Supreme Will, another great counterspell, gives you options. Pretty much Mana Leak is option 1, or you may look at top 4 cards, pick one, put it into your hand, the rest at the bottom of your library. So it can give you a bit of digging if you need it. Censor is a very versatile card. You can either spike someone, so counter it unless they pay 1, or if it's late game, it's not doing it for you anymore, just cycle it away, draw a card. Options. So into the niche cards, there are a few counterspells that do see a lot of play in Commander and the older formats, but they're very hate cards for one color or very particular, but they do see play. So you've got Elemental Blast cycle here, and then actually just the Blast cycle. So you got 2 for red, 2 for blue. I know they're non-blue counterspells here, but we'll cover them later on. So they let you counter the opposite color to the spell and destroy the opposite color to the spell. So often these see more play for the red ones in Commander because blue's everywhere. And you've also got things like Ceremonious Rejection and Annul, which let you counter artifacts and enchantments. Ceremonious only hits color, so it can be artifacts, devoid cards, or even some of the planeswalkers that are colorless. Still pretty good. And Annul can counter target artifact or enchantment. Artifacts are rampant in Commander, they're everywhere, so it's not bad. At 1 mana, it's a good gotcha card. Nyx is an interesting one. This depends on your playgroup. At 1 mana, you counter target a spell that had no mana spent to play it. So if they're cheating things in and casting without paying its mana cost, get them, because they're still casting it. Plus, I love the artwork and the flavor text, really cool, look into it. And then you got good old Flash Freeze, which is just hate on red and green. Alright, into the mixed counterspells, and this is just a big old bag. I wasn't sure how to put these ones because they're kind of some themes together, some not. So you got Dissipate, Void Shatter, and Fairy Trickery, which all counter a spell, but also exile it so it doesn't go to the graveyard. Can be handy if you've got a graveyard meta in your area. Spell Crumple puts the counterspell on the bottom of the library, again, avoiding the graveyard. Counterlash and Desertion are very interesting cards. With Counterlash, when you counter a spell, you may play the same type of card from your hand without paying its mana cost. So if you counter a Birds of Paradise, you can play a big old fat Eldrazi. Because you countered a creature, you may cheat a creature in. Same true for instants and sorceries and whatnot. Really cool counter spell, but it's 6 mana. Desertion, if you counter a spell, if it's an artifact or creature, you gain control of it instead of going to the graveyard. Then you got things like Calculated Dismissal, which is pretty much a mana leak, but if you get Spell Mastery online, you get to scry 2. Then you got Condescend, which they have to pay X or it gets countered, has scry 2 built in, which is nice. Dissolve has scry 1 built in, so if you've got a deck that really needs that scry mechanic, great here. Admiral's Order brings a bit of raid, which is different. If you attack with a creature this turn, you may pay 1 rather than paying 3 mana to counter a spell, but running it makes you kind of play post-combat to use it. Scatter the Winds gives you option of animating lands into beaters if you need to, so if you're a real heavy control deck with not many creature presence, could be an option. The new Tale's End from Core Set 2020 lets you counter activated or triggered abilities or legendary spells, aka their commander. That's all it's good for. Good old Forbid, talk about a sweaty card. A normal 3 mana counter spell, but it has buyback built in, so you can discard 2 cards from your hand to return it back to your hand once it's resolved. Really good in a bug deck where filling up your graveyard is no problem. So, the very abusive card. Then good old Flusterstorm, which can counter instants or sorceries unless they pay 1, but it itself has Storm built in. And then there's Abjure, which is an interesting card. It's a 1 mana blue instant counter spell, but you have to sacrifice a blue permanent in addition. But it can be a really good gotcha, because they can't pay to get out of it. But then you got the token generators here. Spell Swindle will create treasure tokens based on the card CMC that you countered. Hornswoggle will give you 1 treasure token. Confirmed Suspicions will give you 3 clue tokens out of it. And then Interference will generate your little Eldrazi token when you counter the spell. And that token itself can sacrifice itself to give you mana, or if you care about sacrificing outlets, it's a good card there. These are great because these are colorless or artifact tokens, and some decks just care about token presence and the artifact presence too. Then you got Crushed Descent, which is kind of a bad ratio at 4 mana unless they pay 2 to counter it. A little bit dangerous, but it does give you a 2/2 zombie token pretty much. Then you got Controvert, which again, bad ratio at 4 mana to counter a spell, but it does have recover for 4, so you can keep getting the card back pretty much. Or my favorite, Spell Burst. At X blue, it has buyback 3, So the counter target spell CMC X, great for cheap cards, and you may pay the 3 mana when it resolves back to your hand. It can put a lot of pressure on your opponent every time they know they're going to lose a cheap card. And then good old Power Sink. Counter target spell unless they pay X, and if they don't, that player taps all their lands and just that's it, empty their pools. You nuke their land base for the turn. Now there's even a mill theme built in. Now I know Psychic Strike is multicolor, but we'll go into them later on. So Psychic Strike, Counterspell, mill 2. Thought Collapse, Counterspell, mill 3. Countermand, Counterspell, mill 4. And then you got Induced Paranoia at 4 mana, counter target spell, and if black was used, they mill where X is a card CMC. So if you're a mill deck, here's a few percentage points for you. And then you got things like Feel for the Cause, which counterspell and then proliferate. So if you're a Truxer build or a huge amount of counter presence, could be another option there. Then there's a bit of a mage theme here. Sage's Dowsing, counter target spell unless they pay 3, so mana leak. And if you control a wizard, draw a card. But also this card is a tribal instant wizard. So whenever you cast a wizard spell or 2 different wizards, you can get this too if you need to. Wizard's Retort at 3 mana, counter target spell, but it costs 1 less if you have a wizard, so it's just a reduction. One of my favourite cards, Out of Bounds, at 4 mana to counterspell, not too great, but it has assist 3, so anyone can help pay for it. So in great multiplayer games or politics, great card there. Now these are the more disruptive counterspells. You got things like Dismissal Failure at 4 mana, counter target spell, and they have to discard a card. You 2-for-1 them. Delay counters the spell at 2 mana, really cheap, but it put 3 time counters on it, so it has to wait 3 turns, then it can resolve. Really disrupts their plan. Memory Lapse counters it at 2 mana, again really efficient, but it puts on top of their library, so they don't get a new draw, they draw the same thing again, and you put them to a turn behind. Lost in the Mist at 5 mana, kind of expensive. You counterspell and bounce a permanent back to the hand, so dismantle their planeswalkers or their big artifacts and enchantments. Logic Knot has Delve built in, so you can use your graveyard to pay for it, helps you counter those big spells later on. Disdainful Stroke at 2 mana, you can counter anything with CMC of 4 or greater, good for the late game. Deprive can be good for landfall decks, because at 2 mana you counter target spell, but in addition you have to bounce a land back to your hand, more landfall triggers for you. Hinder, when you counter a spell, it gives you options of putting things on the top or bottom of your opponent's library, so if you're trying to avoid the graveyard there or just put them back a few turns, or if they can't tutor, a great option there too. Nearing the NTF for the mixed cards, Complicate gives you kind of options, it's complicated. At 3 mana you just counter target spell unless they pay 3, so it's mana link, but it has cycling for 3, and whenever you cycle it, you may counter target spell unless they pay 1. So you can draw a card and try and force spike them. And of course, force spike itself, this is where the term spiking someone comes from. At 1 mana, counter target spell unless they pay 1 to spike someone. And the last 2, my favourites, Rewind, Unwind. I love counter spells that reset my lands, because it's like, want to try again? Try your luck, mate? Good cards. Now into the multicolor. So Azorius does well here. You've got things like Absorb, which counterspell, gain 3 life, render silent, counterspell, and they can't cast any more spells this turn, just shut them down. Dovin's Veto can't be countered to counter non-creature spells, really good. Or Swift Silence at 5 mana, kind of expensive. You counter all other spells and you draw a card for each spell countered. So if there's a big counterspell going on, or a lot of things on the stack, a lot of instances, play this, hopefully end the stack, hopefully, and draw a ton of cards. Even Is It gets in here, Ionize, counter target spell, and then deal 2 damage to the controller. Counterflux can't be countered, counter spells you don't control, and it has Overload built in, so you can just counter the whole stack pretty much. And then Double Negative, at 3 mana, counter 2 target spells, so you can pick 2 cards in the stack for you to just go bang bang. And even Dimir gets in here, with Undermine at 3 mana, counter target spell, they lose 2 life. Counter Squall at 2 mana, counter target non-creature, but they also lose 2 life. Good way to chip more damage at your opponent. And even Simic gets in here too, with Token Generating at 5 mana, you counter the spell, but you get an XX token equal to that card's CMC. Really good. Getting towards the end now, here's the non-blue counterspells. Big tip, most non-blue counterspells are very niche and suck really bad, but the white ones do okay. Lapse of Certainty at 3 mana, you counter target spell, but if it's countered, it goes on top of their library instead. So it sets them back, they're not going to get a new draw, it kind of works. Rebuff the Wicked at 1 mana instant, counter target spell that targets a permanent you control, good for removal and stuff like that. Mana Tithe is literally a white force spike, so it can get someone early on. Good for Modern, I love that card in Modern by the way. Not of This World is an interesting one. At 7 mana, counter target spell or ability that targets a permanent you control. Not of This World costs 7 less to cast if it targets a spell or ability that targets a creature you control with power 7 or greater. Now, obviously you think Eldrazi because of big colors and artwork, but even big beta decks can use it. So if you're like Naya, big stuff, if it targets one of your creatures, there's a free protection spell for you, but it is a trouble instant for Eldrazi, so they can interact with it a little bit more. Mage's Contest, literally bid for life, whoever wins loses that much life and gets to counter the spell. Interesting card design, it's the closer thing red gets, that's a real counter spell. Withering Boon is a really good one, at 2 mana and 3 life, counter target creature spell. Dash Hopes is kind of an interesting one, better for modern, not so much commander. At 2 mana, counter target spell, but anyone may pay 5 life to stop it. So in modern, 20 life, that's 25% of the health gone like that, not bad. But a commander, 40 life, that's only 12.5%, they've got a lot more to play with. Now, there are a lot more counter spells in Magic, like a lot more. A lot of them are really bad or really inefficient. And you can even look at your commands and charms. There's plenty of charms and commands throughout Magic, whether they be guild related or clan related. But they're kind of a mixed bag of what they can do, and they're very niche as well, but they give you options, so consider them. But yeah, that's a lot of counterspells I've mentioned today. Hopefully all the blue players are very happy. Feeling good myself. But yeah, let me know what counterspells you guys are using. Let me know your thoughts. What kind of cards are you going to put these into if you haven't seen these before? And have a good one. Catch ya. Oh, why won't Nicobolas just take me? Alrighty, it's that time of the video where we can do a bit of a shameless plug. So thank you for watching, guys. If you enjoyed it, please sub and like. It really does help the channel's analytics out a lot. Maybe consider joining me on my other social platforms, where you can talk about anything and everything Magic related. And special thank you to our patrons. They make the channel what it is. These guys are the building blocks of Mana Down Under. They support the channel in many ways. And if you'd be interested in supporting the channel, links are down below and at the end of the video. Thank you, guys.